Welcome back. Our next guest is warning that globalization has sparked a downward spiral and escaping it requires Herculean efforts. Eswar Prasad writes in his new book, here it is, it's called The Doom Loop. It's in which economic volatility from trends like globalization lead to political backlash. Political backlash brought to power populist leaders who undermine global rules, and there, indeed, you get your doom loop and the volatility goes round and round. Professor Prasad is the Talani Senior Professor of Trade Policy at Cornell. He's with me now. It's always good to see you. I'm so glad to have you tonight. What I need to understand from the doom loop is why it's different now. Because the circumstances you describe at various different points in the book, we've had these things happen in a sort of way before, but it's not had that self-feeding philosophy that you now talk about.
So, Richard, when you think about the way things work, economics, domestic politics, and geopolitics always go in parallel tracks, and occasionally they intersect with each other. But now I think they've become combined in a way that is very difficult to disentangle. And these forces used to work in a positive direction in the early phase of globalization in the 1990s and the 2000s, when there was a sense that the positive sum game of globalization, where everybody could benefit from free trade, for instance, would offset the zero-sum game of geopolitics. But unfortunately, what happened is that the benefits of globalization were not evenly distributed within or across countries. This created a disgruntled class of people that in turn infected the domestic politics. So right now, even globalization, especially trade, is seen as a zero-sum game, and it's no longer offsetting the zero-sum game of geopolitics. So essentially, each of these elements, economics, domestic politics, and geopolitics, rather than reinforcing each other in a positive way, are bringing out the worst in each other.
Which do you see at the moment as being the most serious doom loop?
So all of these elements, as I said, are really entangled together. And the problem right now is that, any element of geopolitical strife that we see doesn't have a force that can offset it. And there are, I should point out that when I started writing this book, this was not the book I wanted to write, Richard. I wanted to write a much cheerier book about how we're moving from a unipolar world with the fall of the Soviet Union, when the US became dominant in every respect, to one where economic power at least is more evenly balanced between the US and the Western economies on one side, China and the emerging markets on the other.
Right.
And I was going to write about all the forces that would take us back to this nice state of play. But I quickly realized that all of these forces are creating instability rather than stability, including forces like technology.
But the problem is, the temptation is for me to say, well, it's all Donald Trump or it's all Vladimir Putin. It's all the result of these people who are on the autocratic side. But the reality is, many of these loops are as a result, as you say, of technology, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, Professor, if you're not to depress us all into the weekend, what are we to do about it?
Now, you made an important point, Richard, and I should point out I finished the first draft of my book in October 2024, before Donald Trump took power for the second time. So this is not a book just about the US or about Trump. It's about forces that I could see emanating around the world. It's going to take some Herculean effort, as you pointed out, for us to get out of this. It's going to take each of us to become much more engaged as citizens, not just of our countries, but of our communities and of the world, seeing shared prosperity as the answer. We need community, business, national leaders who can help us see beyond our short-term prejudices. And most importantly, we need domestic institutions, the rule of law, a free and fearless press, an independent central bank, and also international institutions that will maintain the rules of the game and allow us to go back to a world of shared prosperity.
Right, but I can sum that up in one word: leadership. We need leadership, and that's the bit that's not there.
That's the difficulty right now. I spoke about better institutions. We need people who are going to build up and reinvigorate institutions, but these are unfortunately exactly the same people, the false populists, who are tearing down the existing institutions. And unfortunately, all these forces are feeding the politics of resentment, which certainly some politicians are very adept at exploiting, and they're leading us down a very dark path. So we really need to take matters back into our own hands as citizens.
I'm very grateful. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.